All right. Good morning. Good morning. I'm sorry. It's 6:33. I'm a little late. Hold on one second. Hold your horses. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Let me just tell my dad. My dad's calling in. Papa Red Dog's calling in. Let me tell him I'll call him in a little bit. Call you in a bit. I am in the 6:30 club. Haha, right? 6:30 club. Anyway, watch. Take a look at the spies while I text my dad and tell him good morning, and I'll call him back. Call you in a bit. Unless you guys want to hear his voice. You want to hear Papa Red Dog's voice? Nah. We'll do that another time. Anyway, good morning, guys. My name is Scott Redler. I'm the Chief Strategic Officer at T3Live.com. Welcome to today's 632 Club. So huge day yesterday. Hopefully some of you made a lot of money. Hopefully some of your 401ks, which you shouldn't really care about because you're doing a cost average over time, come back a lot because you continue to put your monthly flows in. Maybe your blood in the street account is at an all-time high. My wife said her account is at an all-time high, even though the spies are not. That's because the way we do it with her is we buy in the belly of the beast when you're 15% off highs, 20% off highs. But I didn't adjust the last piece of it. I think I might let it go a little bit. But anyway, with that being said, the futures are down about 18 handles after a huge day. My thought of the day, I always have a thought of the day. My thought of the day is, will 577 hold? Will the gaps that we have from yesterday hold? Will we digest sideways and then continue to the upside, which would be very impressive? Or do they break below the gap pivot and shake the tree up a little bit and give you a choppier trade? That could happen also. So it's hard to tell. You have the CPI today. It's CPI date 8:30. If we get a benign CPI, chances are maybe we get another push. Maybe we clear 583. Maybe we head towards 589. At this point, the way I'm doing it is I'm definitely still managing a lot of positions, and I'm also selling some premium as a hedge 4 or 5 points above. Meaning, yesterday I sold the 588 calls, thinking that, hey, I don't think that's the way I could hedge it for $1.10 for Wednesday, and if we go sideways, they bleed out the premium I collected, and then I try and trade everything else around me. But anyway, 577, does that hold or not? Obviously, a lot could change at 8:30. Do the same thing with the Qs. 501.48. That is your gap pivot. It's kind of like an earnings play, right? The peg play. If you could digest above a gap and the shorts can't push it in and there's demand there, chances are you trade in the same direction. If it all of a sudden gets below and fills it, we're a little overbought. We need a little bit more time, and it could be even exhaustive, however you say it. But anyway, so I would do that. Some guys think people should be looking at the XBI. That the XBI had a great relative strength day overall. Could have been a lot lower with all the the pricing news of pharmaceuticals and all that kind of stuff, and it's still lagging behind. I personally wouldn't over focus on the XBI, but if you wanted to go out at like maybe a month and buy the $85 calls just in case this downtrend wants to, be cleared, I'd rather see you do it that way than over focus on it. I might do it that way also. They'll probably be really cheap. You buy this is 84. You buy the $84 calls and go out a month, or go out maybe even into July. But that's another thought. As far as the IWMs did better. It's been crawling up, going higher. Just kissed the 200-day EMA. Now see if what's this, 205.84. This is 202.70. So let's go 205.84. So there are a few things to think about. Could you buy a few things to go red to green today, which is what I would love to see. It'd be nice. I do have a bunch of things on. I have Amazon on, I have NVIDIA on, I have Tesla on, I have a bunch of things on. So, we'll get to that in a second. Or if you are looking to be on the short side, because that's what you do, which could be, not even what you do, just in general, then you want to see what goes into these gaps first. If all of a sudden spies are here and the stock starts to go into the not the pro earnings, the whatever you want to call it, we got to name the gap up. What was yesterday's gap up? The China US deal gap up. And it goes in there first. That means it's showing relative weakness. And if all of a sudden the spies and the Q start to go down, those are the ones that are going to fill those gaps first if you're looking to pressure some of these things into the gap. But anyway, that's that. So what am I looking at today? I am in some Amazon. We'll see if it could. This is a huge gap. We'll see if it could hold this and go sideways. Okay, that's a big gap. So all these things are exactly the same. Sometimes you don't have to like overdo it and like maybe try and make yourself so smart. This is what 205.75. Does it hold 205.75? And if so, how many days does it need? I don't know. We'll see. So same kind of thought process there. You can get rid of this now. And you have a high here, and this is probably your next big resistance area. So that's basically what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be spending from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock, making sure that I know where the gap pivot is, know where yesterday's high is, and know where the next resistance is, and then we'll see what happens with the CPI. Meta was an awesome play yesterday. Look at that. This actually was stronger, close near the highs of the day. So this is something that probably can go from red to green first if you were playing it. I made really good money in the options yesterday. I took the 610s, calls on Friday. I think we bought them for 4. I sold them all the way up to like 25. Kachingo. Anyway, that was then. This is now. I am in NVIDIA. NVIDIA actually is green. Look at that. NVIDIA is green, and the SPYs are down $1.70. What does that tell you? A little relative strength. I actually just added to that a little bit. There is some talk that ginseng is in Dubai or wherever they are in the Emirates, somewhere in the Mideast, working on a deal. So we'll see. So where can NVIDIA get to? I think 128.5 is your next level. Okay. I bought the 120 calls on Friday after buying the 116 calls. NVIDIA's been pretty good to us. I had the 116 calls and I rolled them into the 120s. Then I sold a lot of the 120s yesterday. I bought the stock on the dip, and now here we are green. Hey, it did nice. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. Now you have 128.50. So you're probably going to need to look for some individual action. But listen, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. I'll tell you that. So I do have, ASTS calls. Probably not going to work. I didn't think that they had to raise more money. They've raised so much money, but when you have a young company that needs all this space stuff and satellites and this and that, I guess they have to raise a lot of money, and they've been doing it. It's been a big base for a while. I don't know if it's better. Something like Red Dog, it's better long term if they just do an ATM. They get to sell some shares based on the average volume and price. I'm like, yeah, but that's just, we're going to need some huge volume for this thing to actually go green and get going. So it's going to need some big news to chew through that. I sometimes would rather just get a brokerage firm that really believes in them to do a money raise, and then they can't sell it, and then just hold it for 3 to 6 months like investors. But anyway, so my options are probably not going to work, but I did buy a lot of stock down here, and I don't hold stock into earnings. I only have options, so the options won't work, but I made a lot in the stock, and I also only took 50% of what I had, and I made money on that, so whatever. Same thing with this RGTI. It's not going to work. I started buying this in here, and I did not take shares into earnings. I had $11 calls that I also sold over half and made a double on, so just no traction. You got to try a few things, and either they work or they don't work. And this one doesn't seem like it's going to work. It is what it is. Everything can't work. As far as Tesla's concerned, I like it. I'm in it. It's definitely been tough at times. But again, there are plays here. That's why we go back to it, because when you get a sexy play like this, where you could be a buyer on a Friday, 292, 294, sell some at 305, buy some back, buy the TSLL, buy the calls, and then trim into some strength. It's it moves when it wants to move. Now today, what does it want to do? I don't know what Tesla wants to do today. I know there's a lot of car sales are slowing. That's definitely something. EV sales are slowing. That's definitely something. But Tesla, the narrative is supposed to be robo-taxis and robotics and AI and Elon, et cetera, and maybe now that Trump's got a few potential wins, whatever. But again, at this point, those 311.50 hold, does it go sideways and then take this out? I'd like to see it hold and do that. That would make trading, a lot more fun, right? It's fun. Elon's been on the floor for a little bit. You guys want to say hello to Elon? Here he is. Remember that with Rogan? Anyway, one day, if we hold 311 and go through 322, I'll put him back on the wall. Me and Conrad will put him back on the wall. It'll be fair. Anyway, but between now and then, let's see if it holds here, or sometimes it just takes extra time. There's not a lot of power. there is some talk that in Austin they're trying to figure out if the launch of the robo-taxi is safe. So the media likes to focus on that. So we'll see what that story is. Some are asking me about Uber. Wow, Uber looks pretty damn good. Look at that. It's not waiting. It's not waiting on its way. Some people like Red Dog. Why are you playing WRD? Well, WRD, had a big deal with Uber about a week ago. That's what woke it up. And I think that at some point this is going to trade into this zone. So that's one of the little ones. It's one of the stocks that I never even really knew they existed. But then, yeah, that happened. And guys, once you just see the volume, this is why I'm also in it, because something's cooking. Look at the volume here in WRD. So I would think you could buy a little bit on a dip, and it takes out yesterday's high of 1049 and continues. So that's just something off the beaten path of Amazon and Tesla and NVIDIA, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, IBIT is still working well. Did you see Coinbase got added to the S&P? Some people like Red Dog, when the hell is GME going to say anything about all the Bitcoin that they were probably buying with their $5 billion? I don't know. Hopefully soon. I'm in some calls. I'm in some 28 calls, some 30 calls. I think if they come out and talk about how much Bitcoin they bought underneath 80,000, which they should have because they said they would, chances are this thing could go. But again, I'm not in the stock. I'm not over focused on it. Somebody asked me, what the hell am I doing in GME? That's what I'm doing in GME. Do you guys see the move that Rum had? Look at that nice move. Every now and then Rumble gives you a nice little move. And yesterday was an inside day, and chances are it's going to build a nice little flag and continue the upside, but we'll see. As you see, I'm all over the place a little bit here. Somebody's like, what about Microsoft? Microsoft looks pretty damn good. Look at that. Remember that? Remember all those little ebooks that Red Dog does about the pro earnings gap on how to play something versus a gap pivot for a swing post earnings? Well, a lot of people in my community are in Microsoft versus 424, and they're having a nice swing trade that'll probably take them all the way back to 468. So, you have that with Microsoft. Same thing here. 570, 50 is Meta. Okay, that there are ways to do things where you don't have to trade intraday and trade for a living like we do. You could be in a job and also have some swing trade techniques to make extra cash flow. So if that's the case, you're long Meta from here, or now from 621. It's another big gap. But anyway, wow, a lot of people are talking around the world. Let's see what everybody has to say. Ooh, Dan Gabriel says, so sound chart looking good. Yeah, you know what? Look at that move. That's a big day one move. SOUN cleared the downtrend. Had some decent volume. Probably fills the gap. I remember that one. Nelvis 420 says, ONON. You're welcome. Okay. I played this really well. This was the one that actually, squashed the beef between me and Portnoy. Me and Portnoy battled because he would come out and say that the stock market's the biggest casino in the world. And I'd be like, no, it's not. It creates wealth. It pays for college, and it can give people a career if they do it the right way. It's not a gambling. If you want to gamble on the games. Meanwhile, he's been friggin' ranting and raving about the Celtics and how horrible the Knicks are. You know what? Psh, to you. Knicks friggin' have heart and soul and did great. But anyway, we won't talk about that. Bottom line is, you need to have a plan in the stock market to do it for a long time and not just throw SHIT against the wall. What about nuclear energy? Nuclear energy hasn't been, it's been stop and go. Oklo, I tried trading this a little bit. It's trying to go. I bought it on this day and that day hurt. I guess it's okay. Let's see. What's it doing this morning? It's down 36 cents. Then I guess then a believer's in there yet. Bros looking good for a small guy. Someone else send me bros. Some bros. Bros you don't knows. Anyone know what that is? Anyway, here's a big gap up. Yeah. What's it doing this morning? BROS. Down 20 cents. Yeah. That's in the video actually. It's called bros. Big move. Bros cleared. If you were to draw a downtrend, it cleared the downtrend. So, yeah. This is definitely something doing better. So I'm not going to trade it, to be honest, but you could trade it. UNH, I haven't traded UNH, I don't know, ever. Yeah, look at that. They say my son Chase looks a little bit like that Mangini kid. But anyway, he should not be glorified. He friggin' killed somebody, a dad, a parent. Anyway, So almost anyway, I'm not going to talk about that. So with that said, let's see what else are people talking about. Retail hurt the most by tariffs, the bouncing the most. Crocs, okay. Crocs. Let's see what Crocs looks like. I haven't looked at that in a while. Yeah, little doji gap up. I don't know, not so great, but this too. I had a move and it's been crushed. I know I was at a basketball week in Atlantic City and every one of those kids are wearing Crocs before they put on their basketball sneakers. So if you want it to be long Crocs versus 115, maybe it could be long Crocs versus 115. Why not? There you go. Here's 115. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, Lyft has been better. Meanwhile, did you guys see who got freed? Anyway, congratulations. AFRM, that had a big move last week, right? Not really, actually. These stocks are so sloppy. Not for me. You could play as much of it as you want. The CO. Okay. Anyway, what's my focus? My focus again, just for today, to be honest, you have CPI coming out. If the CPI is benign, I think there's a chance, SPYs go green, takes out 583, and then 589 is your next spot. I do have a bunch of things still on, not a whole lot. This is the Alpha team. Thank you for joining the Alpha team. If you were in the open house last week and you hung out for the week, you saw how prepared we get, how we maneuver lots of different things. And some of you guys joined. If you did great, this is what I have on. So just again, like if you saw yesterday, I had RGT on and I sold my shares into strength. I sold my ASTS shares into strength. I took some options. Not going to work. Risk is premium paid. I still have a few things I'm trying to massage, like NVIDIA, Tesla, Amazon, TSLL, IBIT, which has been on for a while. I did buy SOU on with you guys, and I have WRD. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, it could be. Is this correct? We could watch. Yeah, you could always watch the 630 Club on YouTube or on X, but it's not going to be here for long. Red Dog's creating a Discord where everything's going to go in September. If you want to be grandfathered in, you should click Red Dog Premium or Red Dog subscriber, whatever it is. I think it's $10 a month. It's at 33 cents a day for what could be thousands of dollars worth of ideas. But anyway, NRG best of breed in AI power names. All right, I haven't looked at that one. Let's see. NRG. Woo! That is friggin' wow. Look at that move. That's a big move. Congratulations to you. I hope Ray Rice, you're in this thing and making a ton of money. This is definitely different looking than the rest of them. Wow, powerful. XRP moving again today. It's an overlooked tether. Yeah, you know what? If Bitcoin's going to continue to go, I hear some chatter. It's going to be alt season. If you play crypto, just know that when the altcoins are hot and they're going nuts, you don't want to be the last guy standing when the music stops and they pull the chairs and these altcoins go down 90% from the highs. That's all I'm saying. I am in IBIT. I do say that you could put 10% of your portfolio in Bitcoin. Same way with gold. Bitcoin is doing very well. It's probably consolidating for another move. Okay. Last time we were chatting it up, you and I, about Bitcoin was right down here. This was when we had a power play with T3. Power plays is a product where I tell you what to do. You don't have to sift through all my stuff. But anyway, we told you to buy the IBIT $50 and $51 calls. And now look at this, holding the 8-day. This is 104. Chances are, I don't know when it's going to be, but this is going to take out this 108, 109, and you're going to probably see a move towards 120, 125. So do whatever you got to do to participate. Yep, probably XRP. Like you could do that relative, and then Ethereum will probably be 3,500 or $4,000, whatever that is. But remember in here we were focused on it, hyper focused on it. Remember here I've been I hyper focus on it when it's tight and ready to go. Remember the turkey trot at 62,000, then went all the way to 109, and then here we went after it again, and now it's kind of just trending, and at some point should take out this 109. So definitely something to do. Mister's been acting better, Coin's been acting better, GME, who the hell knows, and just continue to move those feet. We'll see how much we digest. You have the whatever it's called, the CPI coming out today, the PPI, which gets a little muted based on the move that the CPI had on Thursday, and see how it goes. All right, my friends, got to do my 40 charts for the alpha team, get ready for Redler All Access, and connect the dots of the day. Hopefully you guys are doing great. And I did not sell the blood in the street into yeses. Somebody like, Red Dog, did you sell the blood in the street account? I think I'm going to hold 25% of what I have left, maybe as we go a little bit higher and see how it goes. Do I think we're going to take out the highs? I don't know. Let's see if we digest above yesterday's gap pivot and see a push post CPI before we worry about if we're going to take out the highs or see the lows again. These are just questions that are stupid. They're not going to make you money. But anyway, we'll move on and we'll do it day by day, week by week, month by month, and your 7 accounts should be working for you.